The threat of a U.S. military invasion in Venezuela has brought back the old debate about the U.S. involvement in Latin America. I'm right here in Panama, in the neighborhood called El Chorrillo, part of which was burned to the ground in the last U.S. invasion in Latin America.
The President of the United States has ordered military action against the Panama Defense Forces.
The objective was to depose and arrest strongman Manuel Antonio Noriega. But you know what? That was in 1989, and many things have changed.
Former Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega has died.
The U.S. no longer controls the Panama Canal, and Panamanians have to deal with a new superpower, China. The Panama Canal is one of the greatest engineering accomplishments of all time. It was built more than 100 years ago, run by the Americans until 1999, and then handed over to Panama. Today, the Panama Canal is the heartbeat of this country and the crossroads of global trade.
The United States never ran the Panama Canal as a money-making venture.
This is John Feely. He was U.S. ambassador to Panama, but resigned in 2018 over policy differences with President Donald Trump. I recently traveled to Panama with the ambassador to learn about the challenges facing this country that he has grown to love so much.
Panamanians take it over, and the Panamanians turn this into a world-class toll booth, basically a toll booth for maritime shipping. And they've done exceptionally well.
It's been a good business.
Oh, it's been an outstanding business, and there's nobody better to do business than Panamanians.
The Chinese are also good at doing business, and they got their eye on Panama.
What you see is China around the world is going in big for infrastructure projects. This is a country that has one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the world, the Panama Canal. And the Chinese have come in, as they have in other places, and they're very competitive commercially.
China has loaned more than $140 billion to Latin America and the Caribbean since 2005. Increasingly, Panama is playing an important role in China's strategy in Latin America. China has already invested $230 million in Panamanian ports and housing, and is currently working on another $14 billion in infrastructure, railroad, water, and power projects. And of course, trade.
China is our number 2 customer. USA is our number 1 customer. We have a neutrality treaty that allows every country in the world to transit freely the Panama Canal, and I think that's one of our assets, that we are neutral to the whole world.
Have you noticed that Chinese presence is increasing in the canal?
Of course, now that we have diplomatic relations, we see it in our bids. Now we have Chinese contractors bidding our projects for construction. So not only are they our number 2 customers, but yeah, we do see that more Chinese companies are participating in the open bids that we have for the Panama Canal.
Ilia Espino de Marota was a head engineer on the recent Panama Canal expansion project. Now, more ships and bigger ships can pass through the canal each day. That means more money for Panama.
Our revenue last year was over $3 billion, and we gave the government $1.7 billion revenue.
Canal revenue is projected to continue setting new records in the years ahead.
Because the canal actually is the greatest asset that our country can have.
Source of pride.
A great source of pride.
How do you see this moment in history when Afro-Panamanians are establishing their identity, the undeniable, overwhelming influence of the Americans is receding, and we have the Chinese arriving with lots of money and lots of interest in Panama?
I think like any other country, like the U.S. 100 years ago, they're seeking their national interest. And Panamanians have to be sure that in that relationship we also seek our national interest.
But would you say that some people are complaining that China is actually taking over the canal? Is that a stretch?
That is totally false. And throughout the whole 20th century, Panama struggled to get control over the Panama Canal, which was under U.S. control. There is absolutely no way in the foreseeable future that Panamanians, any Panamanian, will turn over the canal to another foreign power.
Many hope Panama's newly elected president will stand up to China's growing influence.
What's the biggest challenge that the next president is going to have?
To keep the country moving forward and to diminish and eliminate corruption. Of course, in a country like in most of the countries in Latin America, you can't do that in 5 years. But we need to move in the right direction. We need to move away from some corrupt practices of some politicians.
And you know, Jorge, in my time as ambassador here, one of the things that I saw was that the canal is the shining example of a non-corrupt institution. And Panamanians from all over the country would tell me the reason the canal works is because it has never been touched by politics. And so the canal now has a chance to influence the rest of the country and say, follow our model.
Exactly. We did it here. It's got to be an
Exactly.
example.
If we can do it, we're Panamanians also. Why not other places?
Corruption is a major problem in Panama.